All right, folks. Welcome to Spooky 101. We have a very special edition tonight. It is the Foxboro Forever edition of Spooky 101. In the history of Spooky World, which we will be covering in our film, uh, we are pretty heavy in Berlin, but we also lean heavily into Foxboro. Uh, Foxboro represented a new era in the history of Spooky World. Uh, Berlin, you were looking at about 2,000 guests a night, sometimes three. But then, out of the ashes of Berlin, the trip to Foxborough opened up new opportunities, new ventures, and a much larger scale. And to do that, you needed to hire many, many more haunt actors. And tonight, we have quite a few of the folks who brought joy to your faces whenever you went through your rides, or maybe scared the bejesus out of you. Either way, that works for me. But before we start off tonight, we were supposed to have the legendary Bruce Mellett on the show to express his thoughts on his time at Foxborough. And unfortunately, Bruce lost his mother. We want to send our heartfelt condolences to you, Bruce. We love you. All of our thoughts are with you. Whatever you need, you let us know. So, Bruce, thank you. This episode's for you. So tonight, I would like to introduce you to three of the actors who are still in the business today. They are still scaring the bejesus out of you, but their roots start in Foxborough at Spooky World. So I want to start off with Scott Hatch. Scott, please introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us what you did down at Foxborough.
Hi, Scott Hatch, and I worked in the mine shaft, and I was also in the Cirque Macabre. I was Gastro the Clown, one of the first ones, or the first one, and then I moved over once the trail was eliminated to the House of Fangs, and I was a Scottish vampire, and I managed the house later on the last few years, and I was King Henry VIII vampire.
Scott, you were one of the people that folks that kept saying you have to get him on. You have to get him on when you want to talk about Foxborough. And one of the people who pointed that finger in your direction is somebody who I met throwing axes down at King Fair this past fall. We have been friends on social media previously, but I was wearing a Attack of the Goon Squad shirt, and he noticed it and he approached me. And from there, I can count Bill as one of my good buddies now. So, Bill, thank you so much for being on.
No problem. Yeah, you had it was like I Survived the Pack, which was an experiment that we did 1 year at Spooky World that you probably got one of 5 shirts. It was an experiment that didn't go very well. But
I know a guy.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I saw the shirt. I mean, you stood out like a turd in a punch bowl. So yeah, that worked out very well. Very good serendipitous moment.
Indeed, indeed. And from there, another person who I was friends with through people saying you need to talk to this guy. Folks, you know him as Punch. I know him as probably the longest tenured Spooky World employee. Folks, Brian Chamberlain. What's going on, Punch?
How's it going?
Great to have you on, man.
Yeah, no, I'm a Spooky World lifer. I started at Spooky World and I haven't left. But no, I started at the Cirque Macabre, became the greeter. So if you saw a green and white striped clown with a goatee screaming in your face, that was me. And I went on to manage the Cirque Macabre for the last 2 years of Spooky World in Foxborough.
And you kept going. You stayed with
Yep.
Spooky World after that. Good man.
Because it's fun.
and I went up to film some B-roll in the fall of 2019, and of course, it's the one night you weren't there, right?
Yep. I got the haunt plague that year, and that's before COVID. But yeah, I got the flu or something, and I was out that one night, and I'm like, seriously, man.
Well, that's why I made it a priority to have you on tonight, because I know Bill, Scott, and Punch. I wanted to get you in the film, but I knew that we were up against the wall because we're in the final stages. But we have this platform too. And I think that we're going to reach just as many people with this too. And you are vital parts of the history of Spooky World. So uh, I want to get into, I was on those hay rides. I walked through those haunted houses. I left the park saying that was what brought me back every year, um, your dedication to your craft. We all have talked affectionately about our love for pro wrestling and all of its idiosyncrasies. So I want to ask, same question people ask about how do you get into wrestling? How do you get into the haunt industry? I'd like to start with Scott.
So I got into professionally haunting. My ex-wife had heard about Spooky World moving to Foxboro, and it sounded like fun. Went to one of the tryouts, or we had acting classes at Foxboro. Met a bunch of people, and it was just an incredible amount of fun. A lot of great people, and yeah, it was great. And we used to, or we still do, the East Coast Haunt Convention used to come through Spooky World in the summertime, and that was where I think I got my first real taste of scaring somebody in the mine shaft. The group was coming through, throwing it in the mine shaft. At the end, there was a cart, like a mining cart, and you threw it up against this thing, and it made a tremendous bash. Watching people fall down and like peeing themselves was just it really, really was an incredible amount of fun, and it just hooked me.
It sounds like a rush that you want to keep coming back to. And if you folks have been in it for as long as you have, and I'm not going to date you here, but people can do math. I hope they can. I want to send this over to Bill. Bill, how did you get into this line of work?
So I come from a band background. I used to play in bands prior to being a haunter. And I was in this band called Too Many Gens. And we used to do a lot of Halloween shows. Well, not a lot. We do them every year. There's only one Halloween year. But we would all dress up like the Misfits and do Misfit cover shows every Halloween. So the band, in between rehearsals or whatever, this is 1999. Spooky World had just moved to Foxborough. We're like, hey, let's go see Spooky World. It's a little bit closer than it was, when I was out in Berlin, out in the middle of the state. So we all went up to Spooky World, and me and the bass player Tom, we just like, saucer eyes walking around the place the whole time. And we looked at each other and we're like, we're gonna work here next year. And we did. We kept our eyes on the website. As soon as it said we're hiring, we drove down there, we filled out applications, and I've been doing it ever since.
It sounds like a life-changing experience for you guys.
Yeah. No, it totally was.
Yeah.
I barely touched the band. After that. We did a few gigs like here and there, but we were like a full-time band at that point. And then, that wasn't completely my decision, but I basically never really looked back. I wanted to be a haunter. It was kind of like almost like a selfish move, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, because now I got to run my own show. I didn't have other people on the stage that were sharing my stage with me. I had the Bill show. It was all me. I had this little room, and I could do whatever I want, and that was fine.
The creative freedom that you guys were afforded is pretty awesome. I want to get to Punch. Punch, you have a bit of a history in the wrestling field, so you know that high of getting in front of the crowd. Tell me about how you got into the business of haunting.
I've always been a scary dude. But no, I mean, I've always been intimidating and stuff like that. I went through lots of hardships in high school, and that was interesting. But I had some friends invite me to go to a haunted cornfield, work with them. I did that, and then I worked at another haunt, and then I had friends that worked at Spooky World Foxborough, and like, you have to try this out. And I got in there, and I finally found my niche. Like, you find that thing that you belong to, and that's, I belong in haunting. This is where I belong. I belong with these people because they get it. Like, they get why it's funny when someone screams and wets themselves. I mean, my first year, I was not very good. But my first year was when they started doing the wrestling thing. Mick Foley came through that clown house and serenaded me with Send in the Clowns. So that was like epic. But and after that, I found my footing, and I just went, if you excuse the term, balls to the wall, and I just started scaring the snot out of everyone and never looked back.
So you folks literally went from, you didn't have, so Berlin had this rock and roll atmosphere that translated to Foxborough. So basically, I equivalate it when I'm looking at this story of playing in Boston at the old Roxy, and then all of a sudden now you're doing big arena shows down in Foxborough. You have a massive amount of people, and that means you have to have a massive amount of haunters working here. One of the things that people brought up was the creative freedom at Berlin that they had with their characters. Could you tell me a little bit about the creative freedoms that you had, and by doing that, the ownership and the pride that you were able to have in the characters that you brought to the customers? Scott, I'll start with you.
The character that I am most fond of when I worked at Spooky World was Gastro the Clown. So in the Cirque Macabre, within the door that used to go to Mouse Girl, there was a picture of a clown, and it was Gastro. I kind of pictured him like Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice, disgusting, farting, so I kind of mirrored my character and the way he behaved off of, Beetlejuice. And I used to pick my nose and offer it to people. I would say disgusting things. I would fart, sometimes for real, sometimes not. Who knows, but it was something that gave me the ability to create my own character, and I just had a lot of fun with it. Where I was in the Cirque Macabre, there was a fire door directly across from me, and I used to scare people like literally out of the door all the time. And not just the initial pop scare that you get, but the entertaining. And that's where, I would come up to people, pick my nose, and be like, dinner for two. And it would really freak people out. So the people that were like, oh, you're not scary, I'd be like, hey. And then they would get a little grossed out. So, if you can't scare them, entertain them.
Well, it's a commitment to the character, working with what you're given with the crowd. And I would assume that, you're dealing with crowds here that are teenage centric, that are bringing dates there. And the last thing that they want to do is look weak in front of their date. So you're probably getting all of these jacked up on testosterone folks hopping on the hayride who are trying to say, well, you're not funny. So you've got to get creative with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brian, Punch, tell me, how do you get creative with those testosterone-laden folks that have to show their pride?
There's the testosterone, the people, and there's the pre-gamers, the people that have the liquid courage in them, and you can try to scare them, you can entertain them, or if they're too much of a jerk, you can give them a no-show. Like, that happens sometimes. People get a little bit too handsy, too ballsy, and things escalate. We don't want that, so we no-show them, or we get the crowd against them. Bill and I have been, Scott's good at it too, but Bill and I specifically have made a legendary effort towards just destroying and roasting people in the lines. So that's one way to go about it. But scaring people, you learn how to read people. You learn, what fake bravado looks like, and you're like, yeah, that's nice, you're mine.
So,
And that's
Bill,
basically it.
Yeah.
you playing off of that, I'm learning things from you guys every day, and I'm not trying to show everybody where all the bodies are hidden, so to speak. Uh, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you folks deal with uh, some difficult customers, and also the responsibility of having to do that consistently. So, what are some of the cues that you guys give each other as a family when you're in a haunt, when things are maybe not going perfectly? Like maybe there's a mechanical issue inside, or there's a delay in the line. Something happens. Tell me what you guys do, because it feels like you guys have a sixth sense about
I mean, everybody's got their own like lingo and language, but it kind of like people understand. Like if I tell the people, um, if there's a problem with one of the animatronics, shall we say, and we got to hold the line up and all that, I'll come out and I'll talk to the other actors and I'll say, "Hey, hold on, body stuck in the bone chipper, big fat guy." I'll make a make believe something happened inside, and I'll say that I'll say, body stuck in the bone chipper, big fat guy. It's going to take a second to clear out. The audience gets a laugh at it, blah 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 blah. But the people that work there know, okay, there's just a mechanical issue, no big deal.
So it takes you can't learn that in day one. That's something you learn in time and from listening to the folks that have been there a while. So I'm going to bring it back to Punch. Tell me about
we
that.
train the new blood. Some people stick to it, some people don't. But me and Bill have been all over the place at Spooky World, at other haunted attractions. We've gone across the country in respective fashions, and we teach classes. I mean, if anyone wants to book us, hey. But we teach our own styles too. Like Bill and I can work off of each other. I teach one style of scaring, and I teach safety classes, and I teach how to use props and this and that and the other thing. Bill teaches a lot of ad-libbing and stuff, so we work well off of each other, but we also teach our own classes.
Yeah, Bill, could you piggyback off of that one and tell us a little bit about what you guys do when you teach the new kids?
All right. Well, I always tell people whenever we do the acting classes where I am now, one thing I always say, and I said this back at when I was teaching with Brian, is I always say to the new kids, I'm like, take a look around, take a look at your left, take a look at your right, look everywhere, because you're looking at your new best friends. And people kind of like, I don't really buy that. But by the end of the season, the bonds that form are absolutely there. And, becoming a haunter in 2000, this sounds so cliche, but it's absolutely true. It changed my life. I was a bar rat, I basically, if I didn't get into haunting, I would still be singing the same 5 karaoke songs every week, waiting for, the local band to go on. That's fine, I guess, but I wouldn't want to be doing that now, not with the life that I've got to lead for the last couple of, decades. So, and what do I teach in my classes? The most important thing to understand in the world of haunting is there's not one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's an infinite of ways to do it, and I learn new ways every year. And because Sworn Punch was about to take what I usually say is, I am absolutely 100% the best Bill with one L style haunter there is in the world. Nobody is a better Bill with one L than I am. However, I absolutely suck at being a Punch, and I am terrible at being a Scott. They got their own style, and they're both awesome at it. And that's what makes haunt shows so awesome, is that you get a relatively different cast every night. This guy can't work, that person can, blah, blah, blah. Every time you go, you get the right people. You get a new show every time you go, which is fantastic.
We are literally blessed with three of the best minds in the New England haunt scene right now. And I just learned something new myself a short time ago. So thanks, Bill. I apologize to anybody about that one. But Scott, you also take people under your wing and show them
Yeah.
the ropes. Tell me some of the advice that you give folks.
I mean, for me is one of the things that I always, advise new actors when they're working in the haunt is don't be afraid to innovate. Don't be afraid to try different things. Every time a group comes through, it's a new crowd. They didn't see what you did the prior, group, and they're not going to know what you did for the ones that are coming in behind them. Switch it up, try different things, experiment, but make that area that you work your home. You're not going to scare everyone. That's also something that's very important to impress on new actors. But you can entertain them. There's things that you can do that will give the show some, you know, character to it more than just popping out and then popping back in. You can interact with them for that like 3 seconds of time that they're going to take away and remember. Make them laugh, make them cry, but get a reaction from them and always entertain them. And always be aware of what other people are saying on either side of you. You don't want every single person, and this is, I think, a Billism, you don't want the same people saying the same thing all the way through the house because it's like, okay, the last five people just told me the same thing. Keep it original, you know?
And it shows the effective communication skills that you
Mhm.
folks have. It's not put on the makeup, do your thing, and go home. It truly is a group effort in every single aspect of it, and you turn into a family that way. And just like I'm about to highlight here from Holly Ann, I love my haunt family, and that's one thing I hear from each and every one of you when I speak with you, how much of a family you are. Different haunts, one family is one thing that I have heard numerous times in the past few years of helping to make the film and doing this podcast. And I feel like I'm a sponge just taking all of this in because I've had the privilege of being on the other side of the rope or on the hayride and things like that. And you folks, in one of your many, many characters, have just brought so many memories to me that I wanted to help bring this to fruition.
So
So
I would like to add to that, Tony. So you're talking about the bond. I'm an old Marine. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps in the infantry. Brothers, never gonna forget and have the strongest bond with those people. I never thought I would find that kind of a bond again until I came into the Honda industry. The people that I've met, you know, these are friendships and, they are family. These are people that I would go out of my way to help. They are brothers and sisters, maybe not in arms, but, in skeleton arms. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of these things that, you hear about the brotherhood that forms with like military and service members. I would put this in that same level. There's friendships that I have made through the haunt industry that I'm going to take to my grave. There's people that I may not have seen in 10, 15 years, but the minute I run into them, that bond is just as strong today as it was 15 years ago. And I don't think I've ever experienced any other, type of a bond and relationship than the haunt industry and in the military.
it truly is in the trenches, whether you are serving in the military or you're serving with your family at these haunts. And one of the things that I heard in some of the interviews that we've done before you guys that are going to be making it to the film, we've got people going back 30 years saying it was the best time of their life, and
Mm-hmm.
they haven't haunted since Berlin, or a few of them retired after Foxboro.
Cowards.
We're, we're just selfish. We want to keep it to ourselves. We want to keep doing it.
Well,
We're
you
just
know what?
selfish. We're going to keep doing it.
Yep.
You know what? So this brings me back to this question. It's not the easiest job. It's not making you multimillionaires from doing this every day. What brings you back every year because a lot of people will be like, you're in all of this different weather in New England, because wait 5 minutes, it'll be 90 degrees on October 5th randomly, and then it'll be snowing on October 6th. So tell me what it's like for you, the challenges that you face dealing with every single day in and out with weather, some fans getting too rambunctious. What brings you back every single year for as long as you've done it? And Bill, I'll start with you.
Every single year on whatever happens to be the start date, we'll just say October 1st for round numbers. Every single year on September 30th, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then October 1st, I'm like, why am I even doing this? Because the first couple of like days or first couple of weekends or whatever is usually the worst of the crowd. Like every asshole customer that you're going to get, sorry for the swears, but there it is. But every asshole customer you're going to get generally comes in those first couple of weeks. And it's really trying. But by the time you get to those third and fourth weekends in the month, that's when the fans, that's when the haunted house people are there. That's when the real heads, and that's when you start having a really, really good time. And by the time you get to Halloween or the weekend after, you forget about those first couple of weekends because you only remember the good stuff. And that's what makes you want to, like, can't wait for it to happen again, And then it gets to October 1st and there it is again.
Well, I do know that How I Met You earlier this year, Bill,
Yep.
you were working during the days at King Richard's Fair, and then you had to get ready and work at night. So I don't think that people, when they're on the hayride and they're suspending the disbelief and you're entertaining them, um, I think that people just look at it as the character, and that's your goal. The character is who you are when you're there. But I think that this is the form where people can finally understand that you folks also work during the day, and then at night you go and give 150% to all of these folks to bring them with lasting memories. So, Punch, how long are your days? Like, when does your day start?
It honestly depends on what the schedule's like. Like, there was one year, and Bill is the only person other than myself that I know have done this, because I have worked at King Richard's Fair as well. And there was a weekend specifically that I worked at my regular job, went to work at Spooky World. The next day, I started King Richard's Fair at 7 a.m., left there, went to Spooky World. The next day, I went to King Richard's Fair, left there, went to Spooky World. Then the next day, I'd work King Richard's Fair. On Tuesday, I couldn't put my boots on because my feet were swollen.
And for folks that are watching outside of New England or Massachusetts, King Richard's Fair is essentially the beginning of Cape Cod, and where Punch has to work, he has to go to New Hampshire to do his haunting work. So the dedication to this,
this was when we were in Boston at the time at Bayside.
Oh, you were still, but still, that's still a hike. You're coming up from the Cape every day.
Yep.
And people don't understand the dedication, I think, that the folks that are entertaining us have to this craft. Scott, tell us about what you do these long days.
I didn't quite hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your days are just off the chart, ridiculous. What time does your day start? What do you do to mentally prepare to go into these long days?
Fridays for me are always the hardest. I work a corporate job, Monday to Friday. Days usually start somewhere between, like 7 a.m. So by the time that, say, the end of the day comes for my regular job at 4 o'clock, going to the haunt, I'm already kind of tired. But it's one of these things that actually the haunt energizes me. It gives me the energy to like go and do these things. And when I first started, it wasn't as hard physically, but as the years have progressed, there's a lot more aches and pains, just generally, speaking. But it's that thrill, of entertaining the crowd, of getting that one person to scream in horror that just gives you the boost that you need to get through, to the night till 11 o'clock rolls around, and you can take your makeup off and just kind of relax. And it's satisfying that you've given a few thousand people a really good time. And I think that in of itself is satisfying. And I've always used this as, my own therapy, having to, be straight laced and corporate all year round. I get to break out of that mold and just like hammer people and scare them and make them scream and piss themselves. So yeah, that's how I get through.
So I firmly believe in life that if you have a life dedicated to serving others and entertaining others, that you should be proud of the fact that you also gained something from it, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we have to take care of ourselves too. So when you get home and you know that you just nailed it that night, because I know you're your own worst critics. You've had your good days and your bad days, and it feels like you have a game plan going back of how you can get better, how you can make your character better. And so the next year, sometimes you revamp it. You invest a lot in your appearance and how much you put into your character. So, Punch, tell us how the character of Punch has morphed over the years.
It has actually morphed a lot. When I started in the Cirque Macabre, I was a nameless clown. I didn't have a clown name, nothing. I just was going by the seat of my pants trying to figure out how to do this thing. Because I had haunted before, but I had never haunted as a clown. So there was a little bit of a transition there. But once I found my groove, I found Punch, and then I kind of kept Punch going. And when I teach scare school and haunting classes, I tell everyone, and even the veterans, I'm like, keep working on your craft, because if you don't evolve, you're not going to be scary anymore. You have to evolve constantly. Look at media. Back in the day, like the old Universal, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, those were all terrifying when they started out. Night of the Living Dead, my mom is terrified of that movie back in her day. Nowadays, you look back, yeah, it's a culture piece, but in modern standards, it's not scary. So you honestly have to constantly evolve your craft. There was this guy that Bill and I met in at the what's it called, Midwest Haunters Convention.
Oh, the greeter guy?
The greeter guy.
Oh,
this
that
guy. The greeter guy, yeah.
Scott was there for that too.
Yeah, so this guy came out of the gate, instead of doing the shtick and greeting us and, scaring us and stuff, the first words out of his mouth were, "I bet I've been haunting longer than any of you." And it's like, okay. He's like, "I've been haunting for like 35, 40 years or something like that." I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. Thanks for that. Whatever. Do your shtick. And the guy goes to do his shtick, and he pulls up a piece of paper to tell us the rules for the haunted house. Oh, yeah, Scott, you were there for that too. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Remember, that was the girl screamed in my ear with my hearing aids in.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy pulls up a piece of paper and pulls out his glasses to read off the rules to the haunted house. And I'm like, dude, that's the rules for any haunt you go to right now. You can spit those off the top of your head. I elbowed Bill and went, so the guy's been haunting for 40 years, but he stopped learning how to haunt after 5.
Yeah.
So if you don't constantly evolve your craft, you just end up looking like that pompous jerk. You got to keep entertaining the crowd.
It's harmful to all haunters if the first guy you're meeting is mailing it in. Folks, right out of the gates, as a person who's a guest, a paying customer, if I walked up and the first person I saw I knew was mailing it in, I automatically would think that whatever was behind that would be the same. So I know my line of work that I came from, if we mailed it in, people's lives are on the line. You can't do that. And also the person mailing it in your line of work, they're taking food off of the table of you folks by representing it that way. So the way that you guys handle it and the way that you teach, I respect that. Even though I have never done what you have done, and I will never claim that I have on a level, I completely understand what you're saying. Like, you need to be on and you need to have pride in your work. and you're passing that down to the new generations. So I wanted to ask you, back to Foxborough. I mean, you were dealing with 10,000 people a night. 10,000 people is literally 5 times the amount of Berlin on its best day at times. To add on top of that, you were able to have many, many more celebrities. I know WWE advertised the hell out of having autographs there. Tell me about that, Scott. The crowds and some of the celebrities that showed up.
I mean, to describe it in a phrase, the customers were a-hole to belly button. I mean, the people were packed in so tight. You would have queue lines ending where the exits were, and they would get interchanged, and we would have to have like directional people so that the crowds wouldn't get messed up. There were nights where there was like 10,000 people, and it just you couldn't walk from the back of the haunt area, to the front where you came in over the little bridge where the parking area is in under 15 minutes because it was just that crowded. Dealing with the crowds, dealing with that volume of customers. I mean, it was just, the volume was just, it was mind boggling. I think of the number of people that I must have interacted with in a single night, and it just blows my mind.
It's like going to a concert.
Yeah.
That's the attendance of a concert at like a civic center or something like that. The thing that I remember about those nights, that like last year that we were opened up in Foxboro, I got stuck, I guess you could say. The year before, they had me do this comic character, Grandma. And my boss, Chris, loved me as Grandma so much. He goes, "You're doing that the whole next year." I'm like, "Oh, no, what have I got myself into?" But I had a lot of fun with it, and, we did that. But not rules, but concessions, I guess you could say, is I wanted to be the greeter. I wanted to interact with the crowd. So I said, all right, one night out of the year, I don't want to be Grandma. I want to be the greeter. I want to do Graves, the butler, they called it. That was the night that we did like 1,300, almost 1,400. It was like 13,500. That's a lot of freaking people. 13,000, not 1,300, 13,000. 13,500 people that night. And it was a steady conga line. So here's me, the one that wants to like interact with everybody. And the whole night I was just go, go, go. I didn't get any jokes in. So,
but you were the joke.
So, Punch, when you saw those nights where I can imagine when you guys are like, okay, it's opening time, get into our places, and then you just see this mass of people in Foxborough. Whether a Patriots game was letting out, which I know probably carried quite the different crowd, or the WWE crowd, things like that. Tell me about what overwhelming that was, and what you guys did to keep your heads on straight.
Well, I mean, it's funny because we do complain about the crowds because there are a lot of people that get brazen. They want to look cocky. They want to look brave. Quote, they want to look brave in front of their friends and stuff. And that's fake bravery. It's not, you're not in an actual dangerous, scary situation. So you're pretending that you're brave. And that doesn't work. But we talk about the crowds. Some of the crowds are actually good. I mean, it varies. It doesn't matter if they're, coming from the game. It doesn't matter if they're a WWE fan. A lot of the times when we had the WWE fans, the crowds got really rough. They got really nasty. My nickname's Punch for several reasons that we can't disclose for legal reasons. But and things get kind of nasty sometimes. But we wouldn't keep doing it if it wasn't worth it. We get that adrenaline rush. We get that, if you've ever been excited about anything, it doesn't matter if it's like a new movie coming out, a specific concert, you're going to get cake later on today. You get that hyper little, I'm going to get something good today. And that's how we feel about haunting. We're going to get something good. And we wade through these masses of, some good crowds, some bad crowds. give and take, give and take, give and take, but it ends up being more good than bad. On that same note, the way that me and Bill became, like super close buddies was because of a jerk customer.
Oh yeah.
It's because someone whipped a rock at his head. I was working at the Cirque, which was next to the Elvira house, and I'll let Bill tell the story because he tells it better than I do. But like, we were next door to each other. And we were always waving, "Hi, Punchy. Hi, Grandma." And then this thing happened this one night. So, Bill, you can go.
Bill, take it from here. What happened?
All right, so I was Grandma, and it wasn't a greeter character, but I did run, around the front of the house and all that. And there was a real rambunctious crowd. They had like knocked over one of the set trees or whatever, and then all of a sudden, like you remember the line cues over there, they had all the gravel, So the rocks are about like that big, about the size of a quarter, and then all of a sudden, bing, right off my freaking skull, somebody threw a rock at me. And I got up on the porch and I was like, all right, somebody did it. Who did it? Who threw the rock? Come on, big brave guy. You gotta be pretty brave if you're gonna throw a rock at me. Why don't you be brave enough to admit who it was? Or better yet, why don't you be brave enough to throw your friend under the bus? And of course, everybody, it's the bravery of being out of range. So we kind of like figured out who it was, but we couldn't prove it. It was a guy in a red hood. So I said to the greeter, I was like, give me 1 second. And I ran through the house and I went up to every actor. I go, the next group that comes through, the guy in the red hood hit me in the head with a rock. No show. That group walked through and every actor was like this. Out from their spots, just standing in the aisle, hands on their things like that, on their hands folded. So I come back out and Punch kind of noticed something was going on, and he's like, "What's up?" And I barely even really knew Punch at that point. He's like, "What's going on over here?" I go, "Some ding dong hit me in the head with a rock." Who? I go, "I don't know. I think it's the guy in the red hood." And Punch just vanished into the house, chasing after the guy. And I'm gonna assume that Punch didn't find him because Punch is not in prison right now.
You have to.
He may or may not have been removed from the house. See, the funny thing is, like, we make jokes about this and stuff, and my nickname is Punch for a couple reasons. But when someone does something bad, they typically don't rat you out when you do something bad back to them. So things happen sometimes. I have not been in trouble yet, knock on wood.
Yeah, if you got a receipt coming, sometimes you just got to,
There's a rep term.
Mm-hmm.
Live round, right? So we're getting close here to a time, but I wanted to bring up a certain event that I knew drew one of the largest crowds that you folks ever saw, and it was when Insane Clown Posse showed up.
Oh,
Scott, your reaction just states that you need to go first, so I'm going to let you take it from here. Tell me about the night ICP descended upon Foxboro.
it was a ocean of juggalos. Oh my God. It was one of the nights that I wish we could like never experience ever again because it was just so bad. They basically took over the clown house and it was just a big party in there. I mean, that's something that Punch really had to deal with more than I did. I was in the vampire side of things at that point, so I didn't have to, deal with the insanity that ended up going on that night. But I just remember just the how bad it was. Yeah, somebody just said in the chat, Lori, worst night in Foxboro ever is so accurate. It was just horrible.
Don't hold back on that one, Scott. Please don't. Punch, tell me about your experiences that night that Violent J showed up with his friends.
Violent J, Shaggy Chudo, Blaze was in there. Another guy, I can't remember his name. They were awesome. The Insane Clown Posse themselves, their management team, they were all awesome. They were joking with us. They were freestyling in the house, like banging on the bars of the clown cages and stuff, dun dun da 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 dun 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 da da da, and just freestyling and rapping and having a blast with all my actors. And they were amazing. The fans were not amazing. Well, they were amazing in a different sense. The fans were just, oh. Now, again, like I said earlier, there's good people in every crowd and bad people in every crowd, but this was just tedious. They all got VIP passes, and they would go into the VIP line, go into the house, leave the house, and go straight back into the VIP line. And at the time, VIP line had priority, so you had to send them back in. So it was literally a constant line of juggalos. And I finally went, wait, I'm a manager. Stop. And I started letting the regular crowds through, and ICP didn't stay the entire night. So when they left, all the juggalos left, and it became like a ghost town. It was like immediate. It was like, what just happened? What is going on? What? It was just freaky and weird.
Bill, you were there too, and it
I
was
was.
a pretty different experience for you from when I spoke to you the other day.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I worked at the Elvira House, which was adjacent or next door to the Cirque Macabre, where the ICP were. Before I get to our embarrassment, my recollection of the ICP was my manager telling me and everybody else in the house, when you go on break, if ICP is over there, take your break on the other side. Do not talk to them. Do not interact. We were told to stay away from them. That was so I have no interaction with them. I don't know. I wasn't allowed. But so the park opened at 6. Like the people could come in the gates at 6. And then the houses would open, if my memory is correct. The front houses would open at 6:30 and the back houses would open at 7, just to keep the line flow. And at the Elvira House, we had this tradition that at 6:30, all the actors would be pressed up in the inside up against the doors. And then the manager would go 5, 4, 3, 2. And then we would bust through the doors and rush into the crowd. And then he would like crack a whip or bang on the bars or whatever it was, like we were animals, and go, get back inside. And then we would start the show. So here it is. It's the night of the ICP. We're all pressed up against the doors like this. And then 3, 2, go. And we all run outside to a completely empty queue. There wasn't a single person in our line. Everybody in the park that was there was in the line for the ICP. We're all over at the Cirque Macabre. We just like rushed out, and then everybody's in the other line. They're like, and went back to minding their own business. It was really embarrassing.
So did you ever experience? It sounds like you never experienced that stuff, because usually it's like clockwork. You'll have people in line for an attraction, and the pulse of the evening. But it just sounds like when ICP showed up, it just completely pulled the needle in one direction.
It was a monkey wrench. It was a monkey wrench that night for sure. Yeah.
Oh man! But 20 years later, we're still talking about it.
Hey,
I mean,
did something right.
But one of the things that I want to wrap things up here is, a lot of people, we have nostalgia for the Berlin spot. I know a lot of people didn't go there. I think that Foxboro is 100% worthy of the equal nostalgia for what it did, because it represented haunting getting taken to the next level and the birth of many great haunters' careers at that location. And it keeps the fields fertile to give back to the next generations from the work that you all are still doing to this day. So in closing, do you folks have anything that you want to say out there to folks? Some people are going to be tuning in that aren't haunters here. What would you like folks to know about your line of work and what you want people to take away from that? So I'll start with Scott.
Biggest thing going into a haunted house, just have a good time, enjoy the experience. Don't try to like put down the actors or out scare them or like do their job. Just have a good time, enjoy it for what it is. We work hard and long to put on a great show and let us put on that show. If you ever want to get into the haunt industry and start scaring, you're going to make some of the best friends that you've never had up until that point in a huge, wide variety of people in different backgrounds. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say.
Punch.
Try it out, honestly, man. Like, if you want, especially if you're from the island of misfits, like anyone that's been a freak, a geek, a weirdo, you name it, and you feel like you're out of place, your place with us. Like, we take all. We do not judge. We don't care if you're purple, blue, whatever color you are. We don't care what your identity is. We don't care how old you are. We don't care if you're disabled or abled or not abled. We take all. Come join us. Have a blast. Even if you only try it for like a weekend or two, it is a life experience that you will never forget.
And Bill.
Yeah, good. They both said everything that I wanted to say. So now I got to think off the cuff. Allegedly, I'm good at this stuff. So honestly, whether it be haunting or whatever it is, for me, I got lucky. I got lucky, but I got lucky later. Like, I didn't start haunting. I was almost 31. I know people that have haunted for many years, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to retire." How old are you? I'm 31. Well, that's the year I started. But I every year and every day when I'm not haunting, right now we're in February, but I still think about it. And I'm very absolutely come from a place of complete gratitude that I found something, that I have my outlet, that I can be creative in the way that I want to be creative. I can be funny. I can be terrifying. I can be whatever I want. Like I said right at the top of the show, it's almost like from a selfish place where it's the Bill show. I get this little room, I get this little area, whatever the case may be, and I can put on whatever show I want to put on and whatever show I feel like putting on that night. And honestly, everybody that's watching, I'm going to assume, has some sort of interest in the haunt industry, whether direct or indirect, by proxy, whatever. If haunting, well, Tony, I mean, you love the haunt thing, but you said haunting is not something you've never done. Not yet. You're still young. We got you. Got you. But whatever the case may be, no matter who you are or whatever, my hope for you is that you, in your lifetime, find something that you can just love every single day and every single minute of that. Part of one of the things I teach in my seminar is the rule of 10,000 hours. If you love something, give it 10,000 hours, and 10,000 hours is what it takes to master it. Well, if you broke up haunt seasons into hours, it would take you over 100 years to get to 10,000 hours, but not for me, because I think about it constantly. I'm always thinking about it. I love it that much that it's an obsession, but it's a good obsession. It doesn't, it's not destroying me. It's who I am. So I got to my 10,000 hours a long time ago.
Well, the best people in their fields, no matter what it is, they'll tell you, if you love what you do, you never worked a day in your life, as they say. And if you're always thinking about it, you're passionate about it, it's who you are. And it's just as normal as breathing to you. And like I said, we've made quite a few allusions to the wrestling industry. A lot of discovery happens not when you're at work, but when you're in the car rides or when you're talking to your friends about things. And you guys have a family that I am greatly impressed by. And like I said at the beginning, many haunts, one family is one of the phrases that you guys have taught me. And I am incredibly.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, go for it.
The many haunts, one family thing, not to, go on a downward spiral a little bit. In 2013, my brother who haunted with us passed away. And that's really when we all realized how much we all care about each other, because we've always been family and stuff. But when my brother passed away, he had come home from the Midwest Haunters Convention and just died. He just died for no reason. He just died. And haunts all across New England and all across the country put orange banners across their logos in honor of my brother. And that's when we realized how really interconnected we are. And that's where the term many haunts, one family really originated. And Bill coined the term. Victor Baratro is the first person to put the orange banner across the Gooley Manor logo, and then it just spread. And now haunters all across the world, if a haunter passes, we all will put a banner up across in honor of that past haunter, and to show how much it really is family to us. And that's where that all comes down to.
I have infinite respect for you guys and your families and where you came from and what you're bringing to the next generations. And I hope for the folks who are just curious as to what Foxboro was like, came out of this with a bit of an education on just how dedicated that the people who show up every day, no matter the weather, no matter the time of day, the amount of hours you put into this is nothing short of impressive. And guys, this will not be the last time that I certainly hope that we have you on here. I think that this is the first of many, I hope. And I believe in representation. So we have a lot of folks that represent men tonight here, however you identify. If you're a haunter, we want to have more of these on this platform, and we want to hear you, and we want to celebrate what you do and respect you. And from Spooky World, the movie, to everybody out there, I want to thank all of our guests tonight. Scott, Punch, Bill, thank you for taking an hour of your time and becoming friends with me. And I'm grateful to have you guys in my life.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So on that note, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Stay tuned for more. And for the folks who are wondering, oh, I'm a haunter, why didn't I get on tonight? Who says this is the only one? Shoot me an email, or I probably have a few of you already in mind already. So time to tip my cap to some more people after this. So on that note, folks, have a wonderful night, and thanks to everybody. Have a good night.